I woke up to an empty house and a note on the kitchen counter. "I can't do this anymore," it read. "The woman I loved more than life itself was gone. My family got what they wanted. They destroyed us. But they also destroyed me. Here's what happened next." If you've ever lost someone you love because others couldn't accept your choices, this story will hit you hard. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss how this unfolds. Trust me, this gets intense. 3 years ago, I thought I had it all figured out. I was running a successful investment firm, living in a house that could have been featured in magazines, and I had just married the most incredible woman I'd ever met. Her name was Amelia, and she was everything I never knew I was looking for. We met at a charity gala downtown. I was there because my family's company was one of the sponsors, going through the motions like I always did at these events, shaking hands, making small talk, writing checks to feel good about ourselves. But then I saw her across the room, and something just clicked. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was actually talking to the kids the charity was helping, getting down on their level, making them laugh. While everyone else was networking over champagne, she was being real. I walked over, and the first thing she said to me wasn't, "What do you do?" or "Which company are you with?" She looked at me and said, "These kids have more wisdom in their little fingers than most adults in this room." That's when I knew she was different. We talked for hours that night, about everything and nothing, about dreams that actually mattered, not just the ones that looked good on paper. Amelia was a social worker. She spent her days helping families stay together, fighting for kids who needed someone in their corner. She made a fraction of what I made, but she was richer than anyone I knew. She had purpose. She had this light in her eyes when she talked about her work that I'd never felt about anything in my life. Being around her made me want to be better, to do something that actually mattered. The first time I brought her home to meet my parents, I should have known what was coming. My mother was polite, in that cold way she'd perfected over decades of high society functions. My father barely looked up from his newspaper. They asked her about her work situation and where she came from. The way they said it made my stomach turn. They were sizing her up like she was some kind of threat. After dinner, my mother pulled me aside and said, "She seems very nice, honey, but are you sure she's right for our family?" Our family, like we were some kind of dynasty that needed protecting. I told her I loved Amelia, and that should be enough. She just smiled that tight smile and said, "Love isn't always enough, sweetheart. Think about your future." But I didn't want their version of my future anymore. For the first time in my life, I wanted something that was mine, something real, something that made me feel alive instead of just successful. I proposed to Amelia on the beach where we'd had our first real date. Nothing fancy, no big production, just us, the sunset, and a promise that we'd build something beautiful together. When she said yes, I felt like I could conquer the world. We started planning our life. Kids, maybe a little place in the mountains, dreams that had nothing to do with stock portfolios or board meetings. Our wedding was small, just her family, a few close friends, and the people who really mattered. My parents said they couldn't make it, some excuse about a business trip. My brother showed up for an hour, made his obligatory appearance, and left. But I didn't care. Looking at Amelia in her dress, seeing how happy her family was for us, I felt like the luckiest man alive. We moved into a house in the suburbs, nothing too flashy, but perfect for us. Amelia planted a garden in the backyard. She said she wanted to grow things, to create life instead of just maintaining it. We'd sit on the back porch in the evenings, planning our future. She wanted 2 kids, maybe 3. I wanted whatever made her happy. For those first few months, it felt like we were living in a bubble. Work was good, money was flowing, and every day I came home to someone who loved me for who I was, not what I could provide. We were trying to start a family, talking about baby names, looking at cribs online. Life felt perfect, but perfect doesn't last when your family sees your happiness as their failure. I just didn't know how far they'd go to fix what they saw as my mistake. I should have seen it coming. The signs were all there, but when you're in love, you want to believe that everything will work out. You tell yourself that family will come around, that love really can conquer all. I was wrong. It started small. Family dinners where Amelia and I weren't invited. business meetings where my father would mention how important it was to maintain our reputation in the community. My mother would call and ask how I was doing, but never ask about my wife. It was like Amelia didn't exist to them. Then the comments got more direct. My brother would make jokes about how I was slumming it with someone who didn't understand our world. My uncle, who sat on the board of our family company, started questioning my judgment in business meetings. If he can't make smart decisions in his personal life, how can we trust him with company decisions? He'd say, thinking I couldn't hear him. But Amelia felt every slight, every cold shoulder, every fake smile. She'd come home from family events, the few she was actually invited to, looking like she'd been in a war. She'd put on a brave face and tell me it was fine, but I could see it was eating her alive. She started making excuses not to go to family functions. I have to work, she'd say, even though I knew she'd rearrange her schedule. The worst part was watching her blame herself. Maybe I should try harder, she'd say. Maybe if I dressed differently or talked about different things. I'd tell her she was perfect exactly as she was, but the damage was being done. Drop by drop, my family was poisoning the best thing that had ever happened to me. Then came the ultimatum. My father called me into his office on a Tuesday morning, the same office where he'd taught me about business, where I'd learned about responsibility and family legacy. He didn't waste time with small talk. "This has gone on long enough," he said, not even looking up from his desk. "You need to end this marriage and get your life back on track." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Dad, she's my wife. I love her." He finally looked at me and his eyes were cold. "Love doesn't pay the bills, son. Love doesn't build empires. You're throwing away everything we've built for what? A woman who will never fit into our world." "She doesn't need to fit into your world," I said. "I'm building my own world with her." That's when he dropped the bomb. "Then you'll do it without our money, without our name, and without our support. Choose carefully, her or your future." I stared at him, this man who'd raised me, who'd taught me right from wrong, and I realized I didn't recognize him anymore. "If that's how you feel, then I choose her. Every single time." He nodded like he'd expected this. "Then you're no longer welcome in this family business. Your trust fund is frozen. Your company shares are being transferred back to the family. You have 30 days to clear out your office." I walked out of that building knowing I'd never go back. 27 years old and I was starting over from scratch. But you know what? I felt free for the first time in my life. When I told Amelia what happened, she cried. Not because of the money, she'd never cared about that, but because she felt responsible. "They did this because of me," she kept saying. "You lost everything because of me." I held her and told her she was wrong. I didn't lose everything. I lost people who never really loved me, but I still have you, and that's all that matters. For a while, we were okay. I started my own consulting firm, working 18-hour days to build something from nothing. Amelia supported me in every way she could. She'd bring me dinner at the office, massage my shoulders when I was stressed, remind me why we were fighting for this life together. But the pressure was intense. We had to sell the house, move into a smaller apartment, no more dinners at expensive restaurants, no more weekend getaways. Amelia never complained, but I could see the stress wearing on her. She'd wake up at night, staring at the ceiling, and I knew she was thinking about how different things would be if she'd never met me. The business was slow to grow. Turns out, when your family controls half the industry connections in the city, starting over is harder than you think. Deals I thought were sure things fell through. Clients who'd promised to follow me suddenly stopped returning my calls. My family's influence reached further than I'd realized. Money got tight, really tight. We started fighting about stupid things. Who forgot to turn off the lights, whether we could afford groceries this week, if we should really be trying for a baby when we could barely take care of ourselves. The fights were never really about those things, but we couldn't talk about what they were really about. Amelia started working double shifts, picking up weekend hours, anything to help make ends meet. I hated watching her work herself to exhaustion to compensate for what I'd lost. She'd come home dead tired, and I'd be frustrated about another failed business meeting, and we'd snap at each other over nothing. The worst fight was on a Thursday night. I'd lost another potential client, someone who'd basically told me that working with me would be problematic for their other relationships. I came home angry at the world, and Amelia tried to comfort me. Maybe we should consider reaching out to your family, she said quietly. Maybe if we apologized, explained that we understand their concerns. I exploded. Apologized? For what? For loving each other. For not caring about their racist, classist bullshit? She flinched like I'd slapped her. I just want you to be happy again. I am happy, I yelled, which was obviously a lie. I'm happy with you. Why isn't that enough? She looked at me with tears in her eyes and said the words that still haunt me. Because I can see you disappearing a little more every day. The man I married is fading away, and I don't know how to bring him back. That night, she slept on the couch. For the first time since we'd been together, we couldn't even stand to be in the same bed. I lay there staring at the ceiling, wondering if she was right, wondering if I was losing myself in the fight to prove everyone wrong. I should have gotten up, should have gone to her, apologized, told her we'd figure it out together. Instead, I let my pride keep me in that bed, convinced that mourning would make everything better. It didn't. The next few weeks were like walking on broken glass. Every conversation felt dangerous, like one wrong word would shatter what little we had left. Amelia started staying late at work more often. When she came home, she'd go straight to the shower, then to bed, barely saying goodnight. I told myself she was just tired, that we were both under stress, that things would get better once my business picked up. But deep down, I knew I was losing her. The final straw came on a Monday. I'd been counting on a big contract that would have changed everything for us. 3 months of meetings, presentations, promises that this was going to be our breakthrough. Then I got the call. They were going with someone else, someone with better industry connections. I came home that night feeling like a complete failure. Amelia was in the kitchen, making dinner with whatever we had left in the fridge. She looked up when I walked in, and I could see the hope in her eyes. She was waiting for good news. They said no, I told her. Her face fell, but she tried to smile. It's okay. Something else will come up. Will it? I snapped. Because it's been 8 months, Amelia. 8 months of rejection after rejection. Maybe my family was right. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Don't say that, she said softly. You're the smartest person I know. Smart doesn't pay rent, I said, hating myself even as the words came out. Smart doesn't put food on the table or give you the life you deserve. That's when she broke. The life I deserve? You think I care about any of that? You think I married you for money? I don't know what to think anymore, I said. And God help me, I meant it. Maybe you're realizing what everyone else already knew, that you made a mistake. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. Amelia stared at me like I'd become a stranger, and maybe I had. The man she'd married would never have said those words. I need some air, she whispered and walked out. She didn't come back that night or the next morning. I called her work, but they said she'd called in sick. I drove around looking for her car, checked all our favorite places, but she was gone. When she finally came home 2 days later, she looked like she'd been crying for hours. I've been thinking, she said, not looking at me, about us, about what's best. Amelia, I'm sorry, I didn't mean what I said. I was angry and scared and… I know, she said, but that's the problem. This is who we become when things get hard. This is what we do to each other. So we'll do better. We'll fight for this. She finally looked at me and her eyes were empty. I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of feeling like I'm the reason you lost everything. I'm tired of watching you hate your life because you chose me. I don't hate my life. I hate that I can't give you what you deserve. What I deserve is to be with someone who doesn't see me as a burden. What I deserve is to not watch the man I love destroy himself trying to prove a point. That night, she slept in the guest room. In the morning, I woke up to silence. No coffee brewing, no shower running, no sound of her getting ready for work. Just silence. I found the note on the kitchen counter next to her wedding ring. I love you too much to watch you lose yourself because of me. Maybe apart, we can both find our way back to who we're supposed to be. Please don't look for me. I need time to figure out what comes next. Take care of yourself. I called her phone. Disconnected. I drove to her work. They said she'd quit. I went to her sister's house, her best friend's apartment, anywhere I could think of. No one had seen her. No one knew where she'd gone. It was like she'd vanished into thin air, taking the best part of me with her. I sat in our empty apartment that night, surrounded by the life we'd tried to build together, and I realized what I'd done. In trying to prove that I could choose love over money, I'd forgotten the most important thing. Love means protecting each other, not just making grand gestures. I'd failed her. I'd failed us. And now she was gone, convinced that leaving was the most loving thing she could do. The irony wasn't lost on me. My family had gotten exactly what they wanted. They destroyed my marriage without lifting a finger. All they had to do was wait for me to destroy it myself. The weeks that followed were the darkest of my life. I'd wake up every morning reaching for her, finding empty space. I'd make coffee for two out of habit, then stare at the extra cup until it got cold. The apartment felt like a tomb, filled with ghosts of conversations we'd never have again. My business actually started picking up. Isn't that the cruelest joke of all? The deals I'd been chasing finally came through. Money started flowing in. I could afford the nice apartment again, the expensive restaurants, all the things I thought mattered. But what's the point of success when you have no one to share it with? I threw myself into work, pulling 16-hour days, anything to avoid going home to that empty space. But no matter how busy I kept myself, the truth followed me everywhere. I had everything I thought I wanted, and I was completely miserable. One night I was working late in my office when I found something in my desk drawer, a photo from our wedding day. Amelia's smile was so bright it could have powered the entire building. I was looking at her like she was the only person in the world that mattered. Because she was. That's when it hit me. Really hit me. She didn't leave because she stopped loving me. She left because she loved me too much to watch me destroy myself. In her mind, walking away was the ultimate sacrifice. She thought she was setting me free to have the life my family wanted for me. But this wasn't freedom. This was prison. I started thinking about everything that had happened, really thinking about it for the first time. My family hadn't just rejected Amelia. They'd rejected the version of me that was happy. They'd rather have a miserable son who looked good on paper than a joyful son who married for love. I realized I'd been fighting the wrong battle. I'd been trying to prove to them that I could have both their approval and my wife. But the truth was, I didn't want their approval anymore. I didn't want to be part of a family that could look at the woman I loved and see only what was wrong with her. The next morning, I did something I should have done months ago. I called a private investigator. If Amelia thought disappearing would solve our problems, she was wrong. If she thought I'd just move on and forget about her, she didn't know me at all. I need you to find my wife, I told him. She left, thinking she was doing me a favor. I need to show her that she's wrong. He took the case, and I gave him everything. Photos, her last known contacts, anywhere she might have gone. While he searched, I started rebuilding. Not just my business, but myself. The man Amelia fell in love with 3 years ago. I remembered why I'd walked away from my family in the first place. It wasn't just about choosing her over them. It was about choosing authenticity over appearances, love over status, happiness over expectations. Somewhere in the fight to survive, I'd forgotten that. I started volunteering at the community center where Amelia used to work. The kids there reminded me of her, full of hope despite everything they'd been through. One little girl asked me why I looked so sad all the time. I lost someone very important to me, I told her. Did you tell them you were sorry? She asked. I tried to, but they left before I could. She looked at me with the wisdom only children possess and said, then you have to find them and try harder. Out of the mouths of babes. 3 weeks later, the investigator called. He'd found her. She was living 2 states away, working at a women's shelter, using her maiden name. She was trying to rebuild her life, just like I was rebuilding mine. But here's what she didn't understand. There is no rebuilding without her. She wasn't the problem with my old life. She was the solution. She wasn't what I lost when I walked away from my family. She was what I found. I'm going to her. I'm going to tell her that I finally understand what she was trying to do and why she was wrong. I'm going to show her that love isn't about sacrifice. It's about choosing each other every single day, no matter what the world throws at you. I don't know if she'll take me back. I don't know if I can undo the damage I've done. But I know I have to try, because a life without her isn't a life worth living. Sometimes we don't know what we have until it's gone. But sometimes, if we're lucky, we get a second chance to make things right. That's where I am now, standing at the crossroads between my past mistakes and my future happiness. I found her. I know where she is. But finding her is only half the battle. The real question is whether I can prove to her that I've learned from my failures, that I understand now what love really means. Love isn't about grand gestures or choosing sides. It's about choosing each other every single day, even when the world tells you you're wrong. It's about protecting what matters most, not just fighting for it. My family thought they were saving me from making a mistake. They couldn't see that walking away from Amelia would have been the biggest mistake of my life. They measured success by bank accounts and social status. I measure it by whether I can look in the mirror and recognize the man staring back at me. The truth is, I'd rather be broke and happy with her than rich and empty without her. Money can buy you a lot of things, but it can't buy you the sound of someone's laughter in the morning or the feeling of being completely understood by another human being. If this story touched you, if you've ever had to choose between what others expected and what your heart wanted, please hit that like button and share this with someone who needs to hear this message. Your support means everything to me as I continue sharing these real stories that matter. And if you're going through something similar right now, if you're facing pressure to choose between love and approval, remember this. The people who truly love you will want you to be happy, even if your happiness doesn't match their expectations. Anyone who asks you to sacrifice your joy for their comfort doesn't deserve a place in your life. Don't make the mistakes I made. Don't let pride destroy what matters most. Don't wait until someone walks away to realize how much they mean to you. Subscribe for more stories about love, loss, and second chances. Hit that notification bell because you won't want to miss what happens next in this journey. Will she take me back? Will love be enough to heal the wounds we both carried? That's a story for another day. Until then, choose love over everything else. Choose authenticity over approval. Choose the people who see you at your worst and love you anyway. Because at the end of the day, that's all any of us really have. The love we give and the love we receive. Everything else is just noise. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being part of this journey. And remember, in Churinareshuri, it's never too late to fight for what matters most. Until next time, keep choosing love.